Hello again. So I want to take a moment to discuss with you and help both of us get a deeper understanding about what these first two chapters from the Hammond book mean for college professors, for those of us who are teaching at this level. Because it sounds initially like this is all well and good for high school, middle school, elementary school, but can we actually accomplish any of these goals at our level? I believe the answer is absolutely yes, but we have to really think about this, and we have to discuss it. We can't arrive at these things alone. So, there's a group of people that go around the country having talks with educators about professional learning communities. Rick Dufour is the leader of this work, and he makes the statement that teachers at any level have one job, and that is to ensure that their students learn. Now, this is something I want all of us to think about, and that is, it is our job to make sure our students learn. Often at the collegiate level, we make the assumption that it is the student's job to learn. We present the material. So we're going to flip that and talk about, well, what can we do at our level to ensure student learning? So, being this is often overlooked, Hammond talks about marginalized learners. She talks about implicit bias, institutionalized bias, and the effect it has had on many of our students who come to us at the collegiate level. They've been accepted, but they come and they come with a background of learning where educators that they have this deficit belief in their learning. Now, what does she mean by that? What do I mean by that? They have faced throughout their education a marginalized belief that they can only accomplish so much, that we have to get all this background information into them before they can do higher level thinking and independent work, and in many cases they never get there because of the educator's disbelief in their ability. So this kind of dependent learning has really had an effect on them when we get them into our classrooms. Now, yes, we're talking about people of color and people of poverty, but we're also talking about all students who went to a high school institution where the instruction has not been at the highest level. So now these students are in our classroom. Well, what can we do? It's not our fault, right? Well, it is our job to ensure learning. And what Hammond is talking about are the ways we can do this. Yes, I know we have limited time. I know we don't see students very often. We have a wealth of curricula to get to them. But we can do this at our level as well. So let's talk a little bit about this, what Hammond's getting at. The first thing she talks about is we need to be aware. We need to be aware of what many of our students have faced. We need to be aware of these racial and implicit and institutionalized biases. We need to check ourselves to see what our biases are going into these learning situations. She also talks about building relationships as the second piece, right? In that first chapter, that we need to build relationships with students. But she's talking about not just us building relationships, but the students building relationships between and among each other. We have control over that. We have control over that in the way we structure our instructional time. So we need to be aware. we need to build relationships. We're going into more detail on the actual methods we can use at our level in an upcoming module. And we need to assess students in a way that allows them to learn. And we're going to go into this in great detail. Finally, if we do these things, we can build a community of learners in our classroom. We can build a classroom community where they're excited to come to class, where they're apologetic if they miss, where they can just excel because we are providing the scaffolding, we are providing the environment where, as she talks about with the brain research, which again is coming up in more detail in future cells, that when students feel connected to the professor and to other students, the brain actually releases oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, and all of these chemicals make the person feel good about where they are and what they're doing. And these feelings are essential if learners are going to excel. Now, she talks about in chapter 2 the new Jim Crow. She talks about how students have been intellectually abused, if you will, through tracked classes, which we've all experienced. You know, the kids who have had the advantages, the kids who are, let's face it, predominantly white, are in the AP classes, even though the AP program itself has stated in their philosophy that all students should take AP classes because they're challenging. But that's not what happens, is it? So, how can we address these issues? And again, I'm going to emphasize, we have limited time, I know it, and that's why we have to do these things through our instructional methodology. And finally, the next chapter I want you to read is chapter 2 from a book I'm working on right now that is about the nature of learning. And in my mind, I see learning situations as directly related to what we experience when we're out in nature. So you need that background to understand chapter 2. And chapter 2 in that book, which I'm writing, it is not published yet, and that talks about the learning environment. So within this next chapter, I write about schools, families, and businesses, and how they all can use the same information to enhance and increase learning, to enhance and increase the business productivity, to enhance and increase a wonderful family environment. So as you read chapter 2, look for specific methods about creating relationships within your environment, and we'll discuss those when you're done. Thank you.